Hello, hello. Whoa, why are you guys over here? Go over here. You guys didn't feel anything, did you? I was just shifting you. That's all. Anyway, hello, 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 and welcome to another Daily Code Fun. I am online, and you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Today is another fantastic. Film in here. Jeez, the nerve. The nerve. Anyway, um, thank you so much for being here. Glad to have you. Good to see you, Dukasoft, Zulius, Captain Commerce. Great stream yesterday. What? I should have picked a better venue. Let me just jump to the desktop. Oh, so inconsiderate. And Tyron is here as well. And anyone else who is lurking that doesn't feel like getting shouted out, or if you do feel like getting shouted out, then just let me know. Otherwise, thank you so much for lurking here too. I appreciate your energy, your spirit, you just being here. Still getting some windows set up. Is it downpouring by me? No, but it's a beautiful, gloomy day. It's so overcast and yeah, it's been so rainy and dreary lately. I know that you're suffering from all of the heat, and I'm hoping it's not too humid for you, Captain Commerce. Captain Commerce said that his swamp, whatever those things are called, swamp cooler, swamp whatever, is busted, and so he needs to get that repaired, and it's been difficult for him to, or not really difficult for him to get someone out. He was just like, it's kind of a rough time right now for this thing to be breaking down. Not good timing. Evaporative cooler, yeah, definitely know those. But yeah, I hope it gets repaired for you soon. I think you said on Friday, which is a long time to have to wait. Yeah, everyone's here. Big Gamey's here. Hello, Big Gamey. Oh, I hope you're having a fantastic day. Gosh, so many cool people. I'm so lucky that you guys come by here and just hang out. It's so cool. Captain Commerce says my basement is a bit cooler than upstairs, but yeah, the repair person will be here on Friday around lunchtime. I'm so sorry. So sorry. I don't do well in hot environments. So, yeah. My brain just turns into a slog, boggy mess. Just hard for me to get through it. I'm gonna open up GitHub and Figma. Figma was where I was trying to go. But if you guys are interested in the project that we're currently working on, you can find it on GitHub/OneLion. Financial management app is the project, and we are working in the sketching UI branch. We haven't gotten very much actual code written, but that's completely okay. Because we did do quite a bit of design, at least I'm going to call it quite a bit of design, for a non-design oriented full stack web developer. We did quite a bit of design. So we came up with some colors, we came up with maybe the layout of the landing page, the overall look and feel of the application. So what we're trying to do now is implement this version of the, excuse me, am I not holding on to spacebar? Implement this version of our landing page. We'll have to come up with some content to put up here and then some actual text to put inside of the hero section that doesn't say financial management web tracking system pickles or something. I may be a little bit darker because as you heard Captain Commerce talking about, it's kind of dreary here in Colorado today in the Denver area. and there's not much light coming through my window. I opened it all the way to get as much light as I could without needing to turn on the overhead lights because I'm happier in the dark. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, Big Gamey says, I'm not doing too bad. Mini Gamey's first day of high school today. Dag. And he also said that it was 85 degrees here and sunny, hoping for rain soon. Yeah, dark mode engaged. There was a streamer that I've been watching lately, and this is kind of a shout out to them. They have some really, really cool effects on their stream that are giving me some pretty good inspiration. I just subscribed to them today. I'm still kind of leery about their content. It's like not really the most interesting thing to me, but it's this person that is Adam Elmore, something. Anyway, check out um, his AR effects that he has and how good of tracking these things have. And actually, I went to the reason that I thought of this was because Dukasoft said dark mode engaged. He created a dark mode for his stream that can be turned on using a command, and it literally dims his screen. That's probably not the best tracking example though. Oh yeah, this hat. I mean, I'm not ever gonna do a hat, but look at this tracking. Look at how smooth and solid it feels connected to his face. Turn your head again. Turn your head. There it goes. It's just so solid. No hat? Oh, come on now. That's really, really impressive to me. I have no idea what he uses. I think he wrote his own. Because what he's doing in this stream is adding custom Twitch overlays. And I'm not a fan of this overlay, but his last few streams were teach me NeoVim or I'm going to set up Vim. And it's like, why? You were doing great showing this content. I'm really interested in this. But there are a lot of developers that are like, Vim is the place to be. You must use Vim to be cool. I know you can use Snapchat masks, but I haven't really looked into it. Interesting. Bazilia says, true, that looks way smoother than most I've seen on streams or in tech demos. Absolutely. So I don't know if maybe he has a Connect hooked up or something that just has better tracking, Leap Motion, for example. Or we could just stick my HoloLens up here and have it face me and then use the sensors off of that. I think, yeah, because that's pretty much just a Connect. Just a Connect. I hope I didn't offend any HoloLens developers, especially the hardware developers. Like this is more than a Connect. But anyway, you get the point. Cool stuff. Really, really cool stuff that people can do. And I'm super impressed. I love seeing things like that. I love seeing creativity. Oh, it's so cool. Zulia says, I really want to play around with the Kinect, but not in my budget. Understandable. Tyrant. Tyrant's like, I worked on both Kinect and HoloLens, so yeah. The technology in a HoloLens is not just a Kinect stuck inside of a headset. Anyway, I'm going to get to what I'm good at, which is telling you stories. So let me tell you a story. Yesterday, I didn't stream, and as many of you know, I didn't stream because I had an interview, a half-day interview, virtual on-site interview with Google. And there were 4 total interviews that I attended. Each were 45 minutes, and they were spaced 15 minutes apart with an hour break in between number 2 and 3. Oh my goodness, man. So I keep mentioning about did you Google the answers? Of course I did. I am often mentioning on stream about introversion and how I'm an introvert, and it's hard to believe because I'm streaming and I'm talking with you guys and I'm interacting with you, and I probably seem like I'm not nervous because I do what I can to just present because we're here to have fun. And I I keep mentioning this part where my motives are actually pretty selfish for streaming, which is I want to be around other developers to get your points of views on how you do things so that I can get better at what I do. And then if I have questions, ask questions about those things so that I don't have to really look them up. In the end, it is more work than just Googling a question, but whatever. It makes sense in my head for some reason. So, anyway, that said, I was anticipating that the Googliness interview, the behavioral portion of the interview, was going to be where I was the most nervous because they were going to ask me to talk about myself, to give examples of various situations and how I respond to them. What is my personality like? And when we were talking, it felt like I was talking with you guys. So you've helped me to feel a lot more comfortable with just talking about things in general, even if it's not technology related, because I feel like I can do a pretty okay job of talking shop without feeling nervous or anxious. But this was actually like behavioral analyses and personality checking and all of that fun stuff. And I felt comfortable. Like I really didn't feel as nervous as I thought I would be. Don't forget who helped you get the job when you make your first million. I sure won't forget. Um, so then the other three interviews were all coding interviews. And of course, I can't tell you what the actual coding questions were because that is intellectual property of Goggle. And so what I can say though is my experience about it. So the first interviewer, so they were all just individual interviewers. I was speaking with one other person each time, and they were different people for each interview. They gave me a problem on a Google Doc essentially, and said, here's the comment for the problem description. And they were purposefully vague. I'm sure you'll hear about this all over the place if you do any kind of research for how to prepare for a Google interview. They were intentionally vague, so that prompted me to ask questions and stuff like that, and that part was fine. And we got to the point where I started coding, and I came up with what I thought was a pretty cool solution. I was heading in this direction. And then the interviewer was like, well, what about this case? What if you consider this over here? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Definitely. I would have definitely seen that had I kept going in this direction, but thank you for bringing it to my attention. We would handle that case by, and then I talked it out and then coded it. But then the first interviewer had to go and ask a question like, so what is this pattern called that you're trying to employ here? And so he's trying to get me to regurgitate a term, a computer science term for what the process is that we're doing. And my brain just went, ew. It was like one of the first times in quite a long time that I really was just reaching for something mentally. And I'm like, I know that it's supposed to be here, but I I can't grab it. And I tried to keep talking, tried to talk out the process, and he's like, well, you're definitely explaining what the process is and you are describing the definition of this thing, but what is it called? I'm like, I don't know. So then after that shakeup of that question and not being able to remember it, like the terminology, I guess, um, I was just starting to dissemble. Like my nerves were through the roof. It was a breadth first search. I just didn't know that you could, like, I wasn't thinking anything to do with breadth first or depth first searching because of what the problem statement was and the data structure we were working with, which was just a two-dimensional array. When you think of breadth first or depth first, you're thinking of trees usually, but we were working with a grid. But yes, there is a such thing as breadth first and depth first when it comes to a grid. I couldn't connect the synapses. So anyway, that shook me. So I was still going along and implementing it and accounting for the different possible edge cases and stuff like that. But the whole time I'm just losing my breath and shaking and oh my goodness. It was an experience that I needed. I am glad I had that experience, but oof. All I can say is oof. I don't think that they're all wrong. So I know one of the arguments is that in coding interviews, so by the way, Tyron said I hate dev interviews, they are all wrong. I don't think they're completely wrong. I think there are a lot of things wrong about them, yes, but I don't think that they are completely wrong. So I know that what they were trying to do was gauge how I react to new information, to changing requirements, to when I don't have the information, how do I reach out and ask for help? How can I problem solve? So it's not necessarily can you actually answer this question? Although that is part of it, they will, of course, be checking can you answer this? Because are you smart enough to at least come up with some solution? Hello, Amin. Zulius is saying, my brain does that all the time and has done for many years. I always attribute it to being so all over the place with my sensory inputs, like switching between English and German content of all kinds, always being immersed in fast-paced media like games and video instead of books and real people. Oh, so close for me. Like, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I might be an HSP, highly sensitive person, which means that external stimuli affects me quite a bit. So that's why I like controlling the light, the sound. And if I am the one that is purposefully putting external stimulus there, then I know that I'm the one putting it there. So as long as I'm not expecting that I need to interact with it, then I should be fine in general. So moving on. Cool, thanks for the lurk, BitGamey. And Amin says Visual Studio 2022 icons are trash. Off topic, but I like the Visual Studio 2022 icon. Unless you're talking about the one on the taskbar. But if you're talking about the Solution Explorer icons, the file icons, I think I'm using an extension for that. Yeah, called file icons. So yeah, try file icons. I really like these. But yeah, so as far as the first coding interview, I don't think I did that great, but I do know that I communicated the whole time and was able to at least show competency when discussing what possible situations are. The second coding challenge was fun. Oh my gosh, it was fun. It's like the first one was can you do this? And I'm sure it was supposed to be focused on data structures. Can you do this thing that is all based around finding finding a way to deal with large data? I think I can say that way, which I would love to say that I could do really well. But my main forte is, can you write the logic to perform this complex task in an easy way? And that's what the second one was all about. And I just felt really, really good about that second interview. It was fantastic. It was fun. The interviewer was engaged with me, so we would be discussing the problem. They would be asking me questions about it, just like the first interviewer, but this one felt more like a I'm talking to he brought his level down so that I could talk to him as if he was a junior developer and I was telling him how to do this thing, kind of like when I'm presenting on stream. And he did, of course, mention the spots where I just wasn't considering something. So, that he actually was um, not not a junior developer. But the third one, so I'm skipping that one because that one went fantastic, I think. The third one was, I mentioned this during, I can't remember whose stream. I can't remember who was talking about interviewing and stuff. But it's someone that we watch regularly. But the third one was an instance where the interviewer came up with the question themselves, the scenario, the question, and everything. And they had in their head, and this is what it felt like to me. And so I'm going to read Tyron's statement after this because it kind of, I'm going to assume that this is one of the things that he doesn't like about it. But he had a very specific progression of how the question should go, of how the interview should go in his head. And if I started deviating from that, he would be like, well, we need to go this direction, and kind of not just nudge, but turn me in that direction. It's like, okay, yeah. So my, the comment was in response to HSB. My recommendation when we were talking about how to prepare for interviews to whose ever stream that was if you do happen to have an interviewer that's like that, then really you're looking at the interviewer maybe gauging how you take this direction. So how do I take the feedback and the stuff that maybe a lead is telling me we need to go in this direction? Can I gracefully say, well, here is a way that is comparable to your direction, but is easier to maintain or whatever, or just take their suggestion as this is a great idea. Let's go that way and see what happens. But he was another one that was very fixated on there is one specific problem that we are looking for, and I want you to describe what the issue is in my words, not in your words, in my words, in the words that I'm specifically looking for. I was able to explain all of the concepts using my words, which didn't use as many technical terms. And he's like, all right, so you said it in a way that like my wife, who is non-technical, would be able to understand. What is this called in software development? Like if you're talking with another, let's say, senior level software developer, how would you explain it to them using the lingo? I'm like, oh my gosh. I don't know the terms for this, but I explained the exact concept. I implemented the exact concept. Why do we need to name it? And that's how NI works. Okay, moving on. So Tyron was responding to the HSP comment saying, I struggle with sudden changes in plans. It doesn't happen at work too often. Plan, sit at home all day, change, need to run to the store. This causes me to freeze up and just ruins my day. Understandable. Yeah, it can be plan, I cook dinner, change, order food instead. Still causes me discomfort. It's strange. Completely understandable. Capital and lowercase I. Introverted intuition. Which introverted intuition is all about taking the thing itself and stripping away all of the concrete stuff of it and leaving behind just the pattern, which means that you also lose the naming of a thing, the real world situation that happened and you're left with just how did you feel about it, or what did you learn from it, what can you do, how can you apply this to other situations. So yeah. So Tyron is now explaining, my problem with coding interviews is that they ask you to do whiteboard code. That's not fair. People's brains just don't work that way. Programming is non-linear. True. So while it is kind of whiteboard, it's still not fully whiteboard. I really don't know what all you can say about the interview process itself, but they did kind of tell me ahead of time. It's a modified Google Doc. So I think that that's all that I can really say, unless you can find other information um, on the interwebs about what their interview process is like. I won't say too much more about that. But Zulius is saying, and don't worry about the wall of text. Absolutely. The TLDR is Dukasoft. More coffee. With a cat going, mm, mm. I love it. So Zilia said, also, I've been watching some interview prep stuff on YouTube myself recently. One thing that stuck with me was a mnemonic for how to address questions, Reacto schema. Repeat the question, come up with examples, explain the approach. I saw this video too. You feel best off with, then code. So this is where I got that you put off writing actual code until you've done all of that initial phase. With a mix of real and pseudo. And actually, it is recommended for Google interviews, don't use pseudocode. If you're going to do something, then write it as a comment and come back and fill in the details. Because they're interested in your problem solving more than perfect syntax. That is true, but they also want to know that you have, well, at least for the level that I was interviewing at, that you know the language that you choose to do your interview in well enough that you can explain, how do lists work? How do dictionaries work? How do arrays work? What's the difference between a list and an array? So giving that proof of that. But yeah, and then test with some made up data, which thankfully they actually provided me with test data, which was really cool. So we got to step through, they gave me, here's test input, and then we stepped through each one, put little, placeholders and stuff, and that was great. And it was fantastic. And I was like, yeah, it works. And we're covering this test case. Oh, but we found this issue right here. So that kind of stuff. And then lastly, talk about possible optimizations. Absolutely. One thing that they may ask you, which I didn't really get this in the first interview, probably because we couldn't get that far because of how stuck I got. But in the second and third interviews, they were asking me, yeah, contiguous versus non-contiguous memory structures. That's a really good one, Zulius. So what is a dictionary? Well, it's a thing that hides a contiguous memory structure in a thing called a bucket. But anyway, so much to Google. Me too. Me too. So what I was trying to get at, and by the way, hello RCE Exploit, you look familiar, even though it says you're a first-time chatter, but your name looks very familiar. I don't know if you've been on other people's streams that I just happen to be on with you, but hello and welcome to the Daily Code Fun. We will be doing some more UI implementation very shortly once I'm done with this long-winded story. I was trying to get to some point. Oh yeah, you will get asked about runtime complexity and space complexity. So knowing that, or at least having a grasp of what might be considered linear, what might be considered n squared, logarithmic, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, and then space complexity, how much resources are you allocating inside of your code, kind of thing, and how much space would that take up? So then Zulius is asking, Dukasoft, don't you already have a job? as a coder. At least that's been my impression. Of course, I could be wrong. Dukasoff says, I don't. Sadly, my anxiety is holding me back from getting a normal job. Hikikomori des. Dukasoft wa hikikomori. He's okay with interacting with us fake people on the internet. And coffee. He's okay with coffee. All right, so here's another thing that just happened while I was telling that story. I got a message back from the recruiter that says I'm waiting on feedback, and I'll let you know as soon as I have an update. I love this statement. The statement was, thank you for all your time and hard work interviewing with us. I hope you got to relax a little afterwards. I know it can be a challenging day. Immediately after the interviews, I actually went up to my wife to talk with her about how they went because she's amazing. Just an instant cool off for the most part. So anyway, I went up and talked with her for a bit, and then I came back and was working on my work product to finish out my work day so that I can make sure I get my 8 hours in normal work with a break for dinner. Whew. So Zulia says, complexities are a topic that never come up in my apprenticeship, unfortunately. I have a general idea of them, but I doubt I could actually classify anything in big O notation, except for the most obvious things. Yeah, I'm kind of glad that the implementations that I came up with were absolutely clear that they were linear based on the size of the input. So I was so happy about that. But I was also kind of sad that I couldn't come up with well, no, that's a lie. One of them did have recursion in it. So I was able to, well, regardless of whether it had recursion in it, I still found out that the runtime complexity of that one was still linear based on the size of the input. Which is crazy. Kafka-esque. Deflex is saying, come intern with me, I'll give you plenty of complex topics. Hashtag Kafka. For example. And he just hugged Captain Commerce. That's awkward. Where are you doing that, Deflex? I mean, you're allowed. I'm not gonna let you turn me into a roach, Deflex. Oh my goodness. Oh, you guys are so awesome. Anyway, so I just wanted to also reiterate how amazing it has been hanging out with you guys. I I have two feelings towards the interview. One, I will most probably, and I can't guarantee this because I don't know how I'm going to fully react if I get this news, most probably be 1,000,000% okay. I could potentially be somewhere in the 900,000s, but 1,000,000% okay, just to round up, if they don't offer me a position. I will be extremely conflicted and stressing if they do offer me a position. Because I have no idea what I'm going to be able to do. He's already a what now, Deflex? I am not reading that one out loud. That's for all of you live viewers. Tired. Absolutely. I mean, it's not like, I have a problem saying that out loud. But yeah, calling other people that, even if it's a joke, I have trouble with that. Oh, Okay, so after talking about all that, I just reinvoked the anxiety that I had from the second and fourth interviews. But that's okay. We're doing some UI stuff, and like compared to that second and fourth question, going back to my work project, I gotta admit I mentally checked out because all I was really doing was this in my work product. So let's say that all of my UI was already put together. Then, where are we? We are in Blazor UI. So in Blazor UI, I have this localization folder in my resources, and here is my hero section. I was just doing this. Make sure that I have my iString localizer. If it's not a shared string to be localized globally throughout the app, if it's specific to the component that I'm working in, add it to that resource. Same thing with test 1, test 2, test 3. Oops. And then, of course, determining whether or not this thing should be just a templated version. And then going through and replacing all these. Localizer. And so I've been doing this for like, I don't know, 100 components and thousands of lines of content. But it was really nice. I'm not going to lie. Just being able to copy, pasta, copy, pasta. It was, yeah. So, point is, the interview process is pretty hard. As much as I convince myself to be focused on talking out the problem and succeeding at that and communicating what it is that I'm trying to do, yeah, it was really hard and stressful. Zelia says, I have one, an anxiety level, but I'm too PC to talk about that here. Oh, the thing that Deflux was commenting on. You're too personal computer to talk about this here? What are you, an Android? Wait, no, that wouldn't be a PC then. That'd be mobile. Anyway, moving on. Let's get this thing done. So we have our design, which looks something like this. We are starting to put together this login card, which meant that we needed a card. So I will go ahead. I'm going to put it in here, but it's going to become its own component. Log in. And because login might be used in multiple places, I'll go ahead and put that in the shared resources file. Do I have it open? I don't, but it would be in the same project as this. Awesome. So we will put log in the shared localizer. And what that means is, oh, I pinned the wrong thing. Ugh. What that means is that I won't be looking in a specific file whenever we need to implement the actual localization. Oh yeah, and Captain Commerce, Captain Commerce, Captain Commerce. I have a request. And hello, Swingware. There was just a shout out for you not too long ago. Yeah. I hope you're still having fun streaming when you do stream. I try to lurk whenever I see you active. So can you refrain from talking bad about your Blazor coding skills? You're doing awesome. You're an amazing person, and you should believe in yourself, because I believe in you. And if you aren't doing things the best practice way, it's because you're new to it. And I know you want to learn about it, but you're still talking yourself down instead of just asking for help. Just want you to know, you're awesome. Okay, moving on. Hi. So we have our heater. Suddenly I'm Australian. I can't do an Australian accent, don't even try. I would like a few input fields. So because this is going to be a login form inside of my card, the thing that I really would like to do is wrap my entire card inside of an edit form. Because we said that we're going to go ahead and use the first party Blazor components, which means that we're going to take advantage of edit forms, data annotation validator, the onValid submit, all of the things that we get for free just by using the edit form component. I like saying for free, okay? So not context, model is going to be our login model. So you know what, now that I am doing this, I probably do want to go ahead and move it into the component, because I'm going to start adding parameters and properties and stuff that I want to keep with just this component. So let's create our login card. Is it going to be specific to this skin? I think it's going to be specific to this skin. Besides, I think we only have one UI project anyway. So this is what I was talking about, by the way, Captain Commerce, yesterday, about splitting out your user interface into a Razor class library, because you can see here that I'm running both Blazor Server and Blazor WebAssembly using the exact same UI. So you don't have to make the decision right off the bat, I'm going with Blazor Server only. You could say, I don't know which one I want yet. But you could also say, I'm starting with Blazor Server only, and then later on try Blazor WebAssembly and see how it works. The other thing that I want to do with this then is move app into that Razor class library. Let's do it. I'm going to break everything. Okay, why am I doing that? Because I'm a crazy mother. I'm trying to go to host. All right, so this is where we're going to use the write app. So all that I'm doing is I have one app file now that we'll clean up, but there will be one app that both Blazor Server and Blazor WebAssembly use and point to. So this one here should look exactly the same. So I'm going to delete it. I'm going to delete it and point my program.cs to app from that UI library. Beautiful. One app to rule them all. Rule the mall. Okay, so all that does is it means that if I make now a Maui app, I could just point it to this, point the Blazor web view that you're given when you make a Maui Blazor Hybrid app, point that to this app.razor, and it's going to work just fine once I clean this up. So to clean this up, we need access to main layout. The easiest way to get that in a Razor file is to add it to imports. Find in man Blazor shared. And now we have main layout. And we don't need this additional assemblies because now the app, which will be at the when it compiles app.g.cs, app.cs.g, whatever the generated file extension is for Razor files, that will exist in this assembly. So all of our routing that we're going to look for, all of our routable pages are in this assembly. So here is my root page. Now, if I had another Razor component library that I had routable pages in, that's when I would want to add this additional assemblies with a reference to that assembly. So if I had routable pages in here, then I'd pick a component in here and say add that assembly so that you can look for routable pages in that project. So that simplifies this a bit. I like simple. Right, and we also need to localize this text here. And so since this text is only for my app.razor, I will go ahead and create an app.regex in my localization folder and use a typed localizer for this one. Nothing at address. Cool. So that means in here, we would like to inject private iString localizer, which since I'm using this everywhere, once again, I would want an easy way to inject it into pages and components. So I'll put it in my imports.razor. And since it's from a Microsoft library, I'll put it up here close to the top. And that one is Microsoft Extensions Localization. And you know what? Something that I am now seeing that I'm going to change in my other app is I want this shared localizer available everywhere as well. So I may as well inject the shared localizer here. The problem with this is any future dev might get confused with where are we getting this shared localizer from? And if they don't know, if I don't have documentation or anything to tell them that I am injecting the base iString localizer using the imports file, they're not going to know where to look for this. Is it true? Can they not F12 on this to get to it? Yep, that is the case. Comments are for the weak. Thank you, Coding with Scott, and welcome. If you've been lurking this whole time, hi anyway. So they'll know that they have an iString localizer, but they'll be like, where in the foul-mouthed chicken is this coming from? And it would be imports.razor. And they wouldn't know. But it's, in my opinion, better than retyping inject iString localizer in every single page, because just about every page is going to use this generic shared localizer that has all of its localized text in this shared localizer service file. That's okay though. We'll do good documentation. We'll be good. So we have our shared localizer available everywhere now, which means that in our app.razor, we don't need to inject it because we get it for free, and we'll use it here as not found. Oh no, did I put it in? Oh, I did put it in app. Oh, wait a minute. I said that this is going to be typed because this is the only place that we're using this. Sorry. There's nothing at this address. Dang it. So this is just going to end up being localizer service that we're going to inject right here as a private. Oh, and since I don't want a code block or a code behind, which we may in the future, depending on if we're going to use skins, I'm just going to put it up here at the top. I generally don't use the @inject directive. Instead, I prefer to use the inject attribute in the code block if I have a code block on the page. iString localizer of app, and that'll be our localizer service. Is that what I called it, an index? Whoa, Thindle's big. No, I just called it localizer. No, they're coming here. Well, hello, Thindle, then. I'm saying hello already. He hasn't even finished rating. So I was lurking on his channel, if you can tell. I'd just be like, you know what? I'm going to end my stream early today. No. I do have a meeting, as you know, on Tuesdays for updating the amazing people, the clients, on our UI progress. And I need to close that tab because I'm about to hear myself. I don't like hearing myself. Hello, Thindle. Welcome and thank you so much for the raid. Let's give you a quick shout out. Shout out. How are you doing? I was hanging out on your channel as well, just lurking. What were you doing today? Only answer my questions if you aren't.
Let's go
needing
then.
To disappear.
Time to make pew pew.
Make pew pew.
Kill all the small furry animals. No, wait.
No.
Let's not do that.
Don't kill animals.
No, especially not small and furry ones.
Yes.
Sounded sad there.
It sounded
Yes.
very sad.
Not the small and furry ones.
Yeah, those were taken.
You were doing an account and password update page. So you're still going from old web forms to MVC, or did you finish that step? All right. So you're still working on that step. Thindle has been modernizing, my favorite thing to do lately, apparently, an old web forms application. And he's wanting to get it up to .NET Core, but he kind of has to go through MVC .NET Framework. Was that right? Or was it you are going straight to MVC? Again, only answer if you are available to. I don't want to. Yes. Okay. So it is correct. So he's trying to go through MVC .NET Framework so that he can then find maybe the .NET Core appropriate libraries so that he can move all of the logic over into .NET Core and then have an MVC .NET Core, or maybe even Blazor. Blazor would be awesome. You could go from web forms to Net 6, but that requires me to stop all other updates on the site while converting. Right. Yeah, so you're doing it incrementally, which is definitely, I like that approach as well. And then it'll get closer to MVC 6 or 7, or I guess it is MVC 6, but on .NET 7, so that will be way faster. Absolutely. So that's really cool. I do love those kinds of projects. I found that I excel at them and I do enjoy them. I still have dreams of doing something a little bit more difficult that I don't think I have the capabilities to do just yet, but I really, really, really want to do them. Then Thindle says, when I switch, it'll be still be downtime, but the switch will go a lot quicker than if I tried to do the new system right away. And the admin interface is going directly from web forms to Blazor. Awesome. But I'll keep the old admin around and change URLs one by one out. So this is a fantastic approach. Can I just say, I like your approach a lot. Holy cow! C# Fritz, thank you so much for the raid. I was just talking with Thindle, who raided as well. Hi guys. Welcome to the Daily Code Fun. I guess I should introduce myself to those of you that are new here. If you're new to the stream, welcome in. If you have been here before and you enjoy the content, feel free to stick around. Ergenrod is here. Hello, Ergenrod. And Abaddus. Hello, Abaddus. Unless Abaddus has been lurking here and C# Fritz's channel, which we are all almost always doing anyway. I hope you had a great stream today, C# Fritz. But I am a, gosh, what can I call myself? I am a .NET developer. You just got here. Work was in the way. Aw. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for the follow, MVD Dev. Really appreciate that. I used to stream every day, my entire workday, when I was doing a modernization effort. We were converting a lot of legacy line of business applications from JSP, from VB6 into newer .NET technologies. So I went from those apps into MVC and VB.NET, WinForms applications. Then from there, we went from those project types, either one of those, to Blazor, and we converted all of the applications. We almost finished every single one of them by the time that I was ready to leave that company. And so I left the company a little earlier than I was expecting. So now I am working as a consultant at Sogeti. And just so that you know, none of my views and opinions are my own and may not reflect the opinions and views of Sogeti, blah, 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 blah. MVD Dev says, I'm a friend of C#. Oh, a friend of C# Fritz is a friend of mine. Well, thank you. It's awesome. So right now I've only been able to stream, yeah, bang disclaimer. You know what? I really should put that in the command. That'd be hilarious. Right now I've just been still wanting to do a lot of exploring with the new .NET technologies, more specifically with Maui. Oh my gosh, I loved playing with Maui, and I was also extremely frustrated by it, but it was fun. So we came up with quite a few things that we did while exploring Maui not too long ago. And one of the main things that I am stuck on is customizing the title bar content and all that stuff. But we were actually able to put together a good example of being able to apply themes. So how can I, as a Blazor developer, take my skills to desktop, mobile, Tizen, and reuse all of those skills, all of those assets inside of a Maui project. And so one of them was, I know how to do theming for Android Auto. I said Android Auto, Android iOS, Tizen. I don't know what I said, Dindle. I came up with just showing how I would structure my brand new projects, because I've already been structuring the majority of my conversion projects as both Blazor Server and Blazor WebAssembly in the same solution with one shared UI. So I was already prepared to add in another project type that could use the same Blazor UI, and that new project being a Maui project, which I think is here. And all I did, well, this one is kind of behind. Do you have a branch? Oh. Is I moved all of the .razor files into the shared library, and I have all three projects pointing to the wrong one, shared UI. I have all three files pointing to the main.razor in here, which loads the main layout and then has all of the routable pages found within this project. You can see that in this project that we're working on now, where I am using my one app.razor in my shared UI project, and then in Blazor server in _host.razor, which we just finished doing, we're pointing this to the app.razor from that external UI library. Same with our Blazor WebAssemblies client. We have this app pointing to blazorui.app. So fantastic for that. So what are we doing now? Since working with the Maui stuff and coming up with that theming example for, oh yeah, that's where I was going. I know how to theme web pages, web applications. So if I change the color theme to something else entirely, it affects everything in the web application. What I wanted to do with my Maui app is take those colors and push them up to the window itself. So then the title bar is now matching the color of the application, or a little darker. But I wasn't able to figure it out. So after struggling, oh my goodness, and simple game dev, what is this? What is going on? Hello, Simple Game Dev. Thank you so much for the raid. I was enjoying watching your content. Was it just because I was lurking on your guys' channels? Is that why you're here? I think you're taking a break now, Simple Game Dev, so don't let me hold you up, but thank you so much for the raid. Oh my goodness. You guys are insane. I just finished going through my intro spiel, so I guess I can just start from here, which is what we've been working on lately for the past 20 streams is talking with each other and just having fun. But also, we've been doing this financial management tracker app from scratch, starting from the beginning, which included sketching out what we wanted this app to do, maybe coming up with some UI design. Maybe we actually did come up with some UI design stuff. So if you're interested in following along with this project, you can see it on my GitHub at github.com/oneline. And it's this financial management project. We're currently in the sketching UI branch, but you can see the information about what we are trying to accomplish with this app. And I didn't put my whiteboard on there, but here's kind of our initial design, like our very initial, here's how maybe we can structure the app with my beautiful handwriting. So when we were coming up with what to put into the database, we were like, well, we're going to need some entities to hold these types of objects. Came up with some ideas about it, sketched out an ER diagram that has since changed. Came up with our possible UI sketches and what all we wanted to do on them. Took all of these sketches and started to put together our UI. And so now we're done with our initial UI look and feel. We are implementing that UI in the application, which currently looks like PowerShell is loading. And the whole point behind this is we're trying to do the design process with the application. Then before we write any actual logic, we want to do test first, test-driven development. So we want to write tests before writing the functionality logic, or at least the business logic. So at minimum, we'll be doing test-driven for the business logic. I don't know so much about the actual components themselves, although there is a fantastic library out there. If you don't know about it, it's called B-Unit, written by Eagle Hansen. Amazing streamer as well. Well, when he streams, but amazing person. TDD for the win, says Rose of Gold. Absolutely. So I'm going to do my best at that. I have never fully committed to doing it, and I would absolutely love to. Simple Game Dev said, I have a call scheduled that I need to take, but I will lurk. Thank you so much for the lurk, and thanks for the raid. If you guys, for those of you on C# Fritz's channel that came over, if you don't know, and Findle's channel, if you don't know Simple Game Dev, another person that is humble, kind of like Captain Commerce, but he's making a game that is Portal and Half-Life inspired, where it's a puzzle platformer and you're given this scenario and you're going through and trying to figure out what happened here, fixing things and getting things to work, and it's really cool. It's got this really cool feel to it. So this is you can see it in the top right corner. He looks a little confused. I don't think the little lion is in his stream avatars currently.
Okay.
There it is. He seems so lost by that. The game looks amazing, and the assets that he creates and uses are low poly, but they still end up looking so good. And yeah, it's awesome looking, in my opinion. If you want to try it out, or maybe he doesn't have the demo up anymore, but you can check it out on Steam. And there it is. Thank you, Stream Elements. That was cool. Perfect timing. So Stream Elements just posted Artificial. Yeah, cool stuff. Good times. Anyway, it's Raid Tuesday apparently. So I'm going to try to continue on with filling in the details of our main page, our landing page, after making sure that it builds and we can still see the main landing page. Excuse me. Payment entry line 85. Okay, so as you can tell, we don't really have any styles in here yet. All we have is content. I removed all of the Bootstrap library reference, all of the open. Did I remove open iconic? I may have kept open iconic. Nope, I even got rid of the icon library that you would normally get when you scaffold a new Blazor project. Yep. So the only thing that I have is my own CSS and my isolated CSS files. So currently I'm running in Blazor WebAssembly because that seems to behave the best when it comes to doing hot reload and CSS autosync and all of that stuff using .NET Watch. Blazor Server often, when it needs to do the rebuild, doesn't actually refresh the page. It just stays stuck at reconnecting, for me at least. So moving on. We were working on first this login page that I was splitting out into its own component, or not login page, but login card. And I think that I am going to put it in, because it's going to be specific to this version of the app. I mean, I could still put it in my shared components, but this is more like templated components. My shared components library would be consisting of reusable shared components that don't actually have, I was going to call it static content, but it's kind of static content. So I think I will put it here. The other thing that I'm thinking about is, do I really want to have my login form be a part of my WASM app? Typically, your login form is server rendered, and you would do the post operations and everything server side, well, from the client to the server, but it would be handled by .NET using something like areas. But we're just mocking this out for now. So I'll go ahead and put this here. We can still apply these same styles to whatever we render it as and create a CSHTML file on the server. Yeah, we'll get to that. So I'm going to call this the login, first of all, components, then login card. I'll stay there. And you're going to need your own localizer. So I've also been trying to focus on making sure that the app is able to be localized. If, in fact, we ever want to localize it, it would be fun. And to do that, I'm using this iString localizer that can be typed, and then I have a base implementation of iString localizer that I can just access to get my shared localizer. So I will copy. And then the other thing that I have for free is this shared localizer here from my imports, which is, I still think it might end up being kind of confusing. Blazor UI dot shared components dot card. Okay, so that gives me access to my card everywhere, my card component everywhere. Those were fake. Fake! How dare you be so fake? This is going to be our login card. Wait, what was login form? Did I start a component? Login form. Oh, login form is the actual data. Wait, what is login form? Hello? Okay, so since this isn't used everywhere, I'm not going to put it in imports. What is login form? It says that it's in shared. Huh. Apparently, I want my login card to be inside of my login form inside of shared. I don't know why I'm putting it inside of shared when it's not going to be in multiple places, or maybe it will. Maybe it'll be on multiple pages. You don't know. All right then. Goodbye. So we have a login model. We're going to have our injected private iString localizer of login firm localizer. And so yeah, if any of you have any opinions on the way that I am doing this localization, I'm happy to receive any criticisms, any recommendations. I have been using this approach in my work product, and if there is a better way, then I would love to be able to implement that in my work product as well. But right now what it sounds like I'm going to need to do is have a whole bunch of resource files that I will create that match my folder structure. So in this case, I will have a shared login form, regex, spelled correctly. I guess it was spelled correctly. It was just capital. Why is that, Thindle? This sounds like a normal thing to do, though. Oh, except for covering the back of it. That doesn't sound like a good idea. So Thindle said, "Dang, Lion, if you'd seen me 2 minutes ago, you would have died of laughter. I went up to a table fan and put it under my shirt and pulled my shirt over it. This should work. It seems normal to me. sounds like something I've often done. Dang it, and I missed a follow. Thank you so much for the follow, Grobonics? Grobonics? Just maybe check. Were you turning into one of those, whatever they're called? Hype mans? I don't know what they're called. Okay, so we're gonna need this, I wish, for our actual input here. So our input is going to be a div class form group. So I'm used to using Bootstrap, so I may as well use Bootstrap like classes, even though I don't have Bootstrap in here. So usually this is like div class form group row or something. And then you would have your label. And this label is the thing that needs to be localized. So localizer, username. So I will create a username entry, not in app.resx, login form.resx, please. We're also going to need password localized. And then there were two other strings from our design, maybe three. Yeah, two other strings that we would want localized. So once again, my question is for those of you that do normally work with localization, for your name for the key in your localization dictionary, do you usually just put the actual text in the original language that you are localizing? Or do you alias this to something like forgot password? You actually use something that looks more like a key, is what it sounds like. At least Thindle does. Cool. Any seconds? I think both ways are okay though. Cool. And since we're again using the first party components, so in this case an edit form, I will go ahead and use an input text and bind the value to our model.username. And because I'm kind of, and I don't know if I can say this out loud because if you look back at my previous videos, you might see contrary, but I'm kind of a minimalist when it comes to CSS classes. In this case, what I'm planning on doing is targeting my login form wrapper. Then there's going to be, oh right, but I'm going to need to be able to, or I don't even need to worry about the form itself. Then I'm going to be traversing my hierarchy here, my component hierarchy, to get to each form group inside of my card body so that I can style the labels one way and the input text another way, instead of putting classes on every single thing. Now, if I was going to have a universal, you can change the style, adapt the style of an input box, then I would do that obviously with a class. So if I said that this input box is going to be a large input box or a medium input box or a small input box, then I would add class input large, input small, medium, etc. Dukasoft says I would probably use a key as well. Yeah, great. I like that. Surly Dev says I don't localize, but if I did, I think I would be putting some key like text forgotten password. And the reason that that I considered doing it like this, where it's the actual text that it's going to appear as, is it might be easier to know what the content of the form is supposed to be, but it sounds like it would have a lot of overhead as far as needing to update the text here. So let's say they didn't like the word login, they wanted sign in instead. then they would change it here. Since this is the shared localizer, they would need to go to the resx file for the shared localizer service, change this to match, sign in, and then change the value, and also always have to update the name in all of the localization files as well. So I do like the idea of just leaving this thing as is and only changing the value. So yeah, I'm going to agree with that. And then they forget and scream out in pain when things don't work. Yes, yes, exactly. Okay, so I will absolutely take that bit of direction and run far away. We're going to localize Yoda apparently because his name is different everywhere. All right, so there is our username label. And here is our password. Will the localizer output the key if it doesn't find an entry? Yes. That's another reason that I was like, if if I do that, then we would also still be able to see the actual text. But if you're debugging, and I have run into this, it looks like everything is okay until you do use something that has a key. Like I have a whole bunch of cards on a dashboard looking thing for my work product, and they all have body content that is actual HTML. So I'm just using the localizer with a markup string so that if the order of the paragraphs or the way that the text is structured within the localized text itself. So this shouldn't ever be empty. This should always return a thing. But for some reason, the dereference says it's going to return a nullable string. I don't know why. Or, I don't know. I could always just do value. Maybe I should do that when I do this. But it could be that it's just, I have a large 3-paragraph text that I'm saving in my localized, so a privacy statement, for example. That is, here's what it is in English, here's what it is translated to Spanish, Japanese, Sanskrit, whatever other written languages there are. Then I can have HTML structure inside of the value for that. But the point is, I call that one thing, and then I was getting out body content. And so I knew that it wasn't pointing to the right file, and it was, of course, because I had typoed the name of the resx file, of the file. So for grits and shiggles, usually, is that really something to put in the resource file, though? Feels like something for a constant file. Again, I don't really know what the real I'll respond to that in a second, Soft and Software. First of all, hello. I did not say hello when you first came in. Soft and Software is another streamer. We have so many amazing, cool streamer community people that are just awesome, that like to come here and give support. I really, really appreciate you all. That's the wrong one. You. Give me 1 second to fix the thing. Because I already lost my place. That needs to go away. I would think so. So the reason that I would think that you put in like a long, let's say we had a license. So MIT license. And we just kind of copy pasted the MIT license. and we wanted to localize this, then I would have, well, this would probably be in shared. I don't know where it would be. MIT license. Like this, because what I would want to be able to do, and the other cool thing is you can have it templated. So this whole year copyright placeholder, you could do a string, or you just ask for it directly using the iString localizer and pass in the parameters that that's expecting. I would want this whole thing localized. If only the localized version would make more sense. So I would grab the Dutch translation of this or whatever, and then put that in the appropriate resx file. Otherwise, you're saying that I would have a constant somewhere that would be, here is the English version of it, and then I would have another constant that's a different translation of it. Then I should just do that for everything. Like the way I think that the original app that I'm modernizing does it is they have a dictionary that they made themselves instead of using resx files. And it's in one big class. And it has every language inside of there. So what would be an alternative to putting the entire thing in here? Or even like MIT license paragraph 1, MIT license paragraph 2, whatever. Because I don't know how else to do it. That's just what I came up with. On the go. Hi, Nick. Nick says I'd probably do all of that in JSON. So what would be the difference between maintaining that JSON file and maintaining an app.resx file? And he says, hello, everybody. Nick here. Wait, wrong Nick. Wrong Nick. I hope you've been well, though, Nick. And if you've been lurking lately, thank you for the alerts. If you haven't, I hope you've just been able to enjoy yourself, have fun. Where are we? I keep losing my place. Wait, did he actually open source it, though, MBD Dev? And I don't recognize the term I18N. Is that a standard term? Is that an abbreviation for localization? Cool. Yeah, so as I understand it, we will be using, gosh, I really wish I could show you the current app that I'm working on for my work product. But there is a UI that has all of the languages that you can choose from. It's either going to be in a drop-down, depending on what direction they want to go with it, in a drop-down where you can select the language from a list of languages, or an entire page on its own that has all of the languages with radio buttons next to them, so that when you select that radio button, the bottom left has a change. Sorry, bottom. Does this look like left to you? No, this looks like left to you. The bottom left. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. The bottom left on the screen has the commit change or whatever the text on it is going to be. That when you change a language is going to be output in that language. So I need a way to be able to get the translation by passing in the culture, creating the culture and then passing in the culture. And then the cancel button will always be in the currently applied language. It just kind of made sense to me. And then when you commit it, that's when it will do the are we left to right, are we right to left, change around the on the HTML tag. It actually has a way to put in the HTML tag. Is it in the HTML tag? Direction, RTL. If we're using a right to left language. And then it'll update the entire UI based on that. I think I'm getting localization and internationalization confused. So the 18 represents the number of characters in between the I and N in the word internationalization. I like it. I love being lazy. Completely okay though. I really don't know what the difference between internationalization and localization is. I have just about 30 minutes before I need to prepare for a meeting, so I will try to get some content styled so that we can actually see something that looks styled on our screen. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it doesn't matter. We're still having fun. I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun. We at least have this content. So the other thing that I want is a card footer. So again, this card component is one that we just created for this app. It's a very, very basic card component that has all of these potential parts to it. A card, we are constraining, well, we were constraining to have only one card body, but because of the complexities of that, I was just like, you know what? We're using it for this app. We're not trying to ship this as a component library. So you can put whatever content you want inside of this card. Why not? Which could be a card body. It could be a card footer. It could be a card header in whatever order you want. If we wanted to make sure that we only had one card body, one card header, and one card footer, and they always appear in the right order, we would do that using another example I have on GitHub from the Blazor component library. Oh, but we don't have that one. We don't have that one on here. You would have to go into the code, clone it, because I haven't pushed it to master yet. But I have this Blazor component library, and I have a card component in here that is more robust, that has the card that passes itself down to its children. Make sure that when it renders the header, body, footer if they're present, and then the body and any children components will register themselves with whatever parent is being passed down. And hello, Turex Gamer. We are doing Blazor. And Nick is explaining to me one has to do with just text, the other has to do with currency localization and culture of a place. So I'm doing a hybrid then of both of those. So if internationalization is also dealing with like making sure that the currency gets changed to the right amounts, I don't know if date time formatting is text only. But I asked on Captain Commerce's stream yesterday, and Dflex helped me by doing a quick search, internet search, and being like, this is how you do that. But I was like, how exactly do we localize a date time? And it's actually pretty easy. And not just a date time. So I knew the straightforward approach. So let's say we had a date time someday, and we'll just go ahead and we'll set it to datetime.utc now. And I wanted this to output to some language that we might be able to set. So for now, let's just do ENUS. And I wanted to see what does this date look like in long datetime form. For which, Turex Gamer, we have quite a few. Here is my GitHub link. And here is the actual project that we are working on. I don't know why date.now is not encouraged. So one thing that I ran into when using date only, is there a now? From date time, date time.utc now, for example, is in serialization. So if I'm using a Blazor WASM with a hosted backend, I'm doing a lot of HTTP calls where I am serializing my objects into JSON. Date only and time only were not serializing when I was trying it before, at least not out of the box, which kind of sounds like I need to do. It sounds like I need to do custom serializer in order to get that to work, and I would have to do that in every project that I wanted to use date only and time only as part of a model. On the form itself, yeah, why not? Or if it's only being used on the front end, yeah, absolutely. Or if I'm using something like Blazor Server where I don't need to send it as JSON anywhere. I didn't read the second part of it. Essentially, localization is just translating the text. Internationalization has to do with everything from the localization to how you read dates to what currency you have. Yeah, so I'm doing a hybrid of it, I guess. So if I wanted to represent this date as a string, full date, then I could do something like some date dot to long date string. Simple, super simple. We get the whole long date. Tuesday, August 16th. I have a requirement in the application that I'm working in for work that I don't want the actual day part of it. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to do just toString with the string format passed in of month, day, year. Problem with this is how us Americans and a few other countries would write out the date. So I needed to localize this version of the date. And in order to do that, what I could do is, let's say that I have a button. Change lang. And I'm just going to toggle between two languages in line here. So if lang is in US, then change. And I could do this in one line, I know. Japanese, because I love Japanese. Else equals in US. So I have a button here that on click, it will change languages. So how do I get this language into a way that this toString or even to long date string would recognize? I believe for to long date string, I would have to use something like change the actual current culture info current culture, and I would need to find out how to set current culture, but I don't know how to do it off of the top of my head, which means that we'll need, just for now, using system.globalization. I am missing a lot of chat, but I want to get through this example because it's a good example. I'm really, really glad it was found. So we would set current culture so that everywhere in the application, my culture information is updated and everything is localized. But also in a web application, we want it to be able to affect my UI, my web UI. So once again, what I have done and have implemented in the actual work product is when we change the language, it goes into the HTML structure, the HTML tag, changes lang on that to the appropriate lang code. And if it's a right to left language, then it adds direction equals right to left for the whole app. But this still isn't going to affect my date string that is using my format like so. So what I need to do then is find out what the actual format should be. So let's say that I just default it to this. And then we can just pass in that format. But we need to get the format that is localized to whatever our lang happens to be. The thing about this is toString, even if I passed in just the name, what was I going to say? The language code, it wouldn't change the fact that I have my format in this specific order. So what I think what I'm, not what I think, what I ended up doing was using format equals culture info, create specific culture using that language, dot date time format dot long date pattern. And so this gives me exactly what we had before, where it was in English, the day of the week, full month name, space, 2-digit day, comma, 4-digit year. Or maybe it's only 1-digit day. But what I can do with this then is if I wanted to get rid of that date, the day of the week, I would just replace day of week, comma, with nothing, replace, comma, day of week with nothing. And finally, if there are no commas or punctuation, replace day of week with nothing. Dot trim. And what this ends up giving me is a way for me to pass in my string format to this date based off of a selected language, even if I haven't changed my current globalization language, or if I haven't put the lang on any of my tags anywhere, passed it in anywhere else. And so that looks like now, oh, that looks like a self-closed button. Change lang. That now looks like nothing. It's failing. Why is it failing? No. Does anyone see what my issue is? Do any of you know off the top of your head? The issue is that I'm getting month, day, year every time. Why am I getting month, day, year every time? It should always call the getter when it re-renders and tries to print out here. I'm gonna put it above the login form. Are you not updating the language? That's so weird. So it was 100% working, or is 100% working in my work product app, where this would change to 4-digit year plus the character for number of years, then the 1-digit month plus the word for month, and then the up to 2-digit day, and then the word for day, the character for day. I don't know why it's not actually changing for me though. That's sad. I wonder if I actually... No, I didn't. Well, fine then. We'll do it like this. Just because this is an example and not the way that I would do it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. Um, that makes me sad. It's working in my actual code. Can I try ENGB? Yeah, because then that one should... Well, so the easy way would just be to... Like the original easy way would have just been date time to string d culture info create, and then pass in the actual culture. But this format again would be the month, day, year, and that's kind of the one that would make a difference between ENUS and ENGB. But yeah, still. Hey, that one actually did work. Never mind, Nick. You're right. So ENGB did work. I don't know why why JAJP didn't work. That was the sample that I used to prove to myself that it is working. But you can see here that the format for ENGB long date is different than ENUS. And you can see it switch without me needing to set current culture. Isn't it trimming out the cultures? If I'm not mistaken, you need to activate something on the project load to load all cultures. Yeah, I do too, Dukasoft. I really do. But I'm going with the design that the team came up with. And so for some of their date displays, like our last updated dates for a certain check is written out as full month, day, year. And so I have a way to localize it to whatever language gets picked. So in that regard, I am doing internationalization because I'm printing out the date in the expected format for whatever country it happens to be, whatever, even dialect. So if I'm given the dialect for that language, in this case GB, then it goes down that far. If I'm not, it'll still work. I wonder if maybe I can just use JA. No. uh, I don't know any language codes. But yeah, it can just do either country or down to dialect. But I believe you're in browser and use, if you are in a browser and use Blazor, you might be getting the culture from the browser, and ENUS and ENGB is the default in most browsers. Okay. I could also try ELGR. No. Okay, so I think you're right. Cools Boy, thank you so much for the statement. In WebAssembly, it could just be that it's not loading all of the globalization. Okay, anyway, that was a good conversation though. Um, that's going to be a consideration I'll have to make for dates, but this really is essentially the extension that I wrote for date time. to localize it. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that. I'm going to put it in my share. Ooh, where do I put it? Salad. Do I have a localization project? Interface shared localization. Cool. So I'm going to have an extensions folder in here and a date local date extensions. And we will call this public string to localize long date or something. This date time. So I saw someone writing extensions and they preferred to use the this name. I mean, they're escaping it so that it's not the same as the this keyword. I don't know how I feel about that. I would still rather have a variable name. String length. And we will also have one that is culture info. Culture info. Cool. And this is going to be return culture info. Oh, right. Here we go. I forgot. var format equals this. And I'll clean this up just a little bit. But this is obviously just going to call to localize long date, date time to localize long date, culture info, create culture. Like, we're getting there, okay? We're getting there. I'm trying to work fast. I'm not doing a good job at it. Return date time to string format. Right. You know what? I think I was forgetting to pass in the culture info. Oh, what am I doing? You. I was wondering why it was complaining so much. And you are static, please. Okay. You are still complaining because I don't have. Okay. So I'm going to have a bool in here. And that bool is going to be with day of week. Set it equal to false by default. Actually, set it equal to true by default. If not with day of week, then we trim off the DDD. DDD, format equals format replace. That makes sense, right? Yes. All of my variable names are variable name 1, variable name 2, variable name 99. Okay, so that means that now we should have access to this extension method that says, what page are we on? Our full date is going to equal someDate dot to localized long date. I can't control dot on you. Weird. Right. And I put that on date only. And Goku Jax, I'm sorry I didn't greet you when you came in. Hello, Goku Jax. You were so kind to say hello to me. I meant to say hello back. Only thing I would try to make the if a positive one instead of a negative one, otherwise it's good. All right, so how about then remove day of week? And now we have a positive negative. No, not. Cool. So let's see if we can now get JA to work. Crash. Culture is not supported. Month, day, year is not a valid culture. I know. That's because I did it wrong. I didn't mean for you to get the actual... Wait. No, that should have worked. Were you using a package to search PDF? What was the name of the package? Kind of, yes. So Goku Jax was wondering if I was using some kind of package to search PDFs. I was using a product called DT Search, which I don't recommend or anything. But what that was an indexer. So it would read the contents of an OCR'd PDF and index it so that you could search it using something like your application says search the contents of all of the PDFs in this directory, or that are in the index, I guess. Not really the directory itself. Okay, do you work yet? Please tell me you work. Which means I can get rid of format, which means that I can make you go away and change you to you, save. Hey, it builds. Okay, so I still don't know why JA is, well, you guys gave me some possibilities of why JA is not working. Elasticsearch would be a better alternative to DT Search. I've heard a lot of people say many good things about Elasticsearch. So I would say that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why this isn't. I keep saying that because I keep interrupting myself. You guys gave me some possibilities of why we aren't able to see the Japanese lang version, and it could be because Blazor Wasm is not loading all of the globalizations, and I would need to be able to turn that on in order to be able to do that. Hello, Irish John Games. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you guys don't know Irish John Games, another fantastic developer. He's a game developer working on a game called Rise of Piracy. You may have seen the shout out for it just recently from Stream Elements, but here is a clip from his channel. Viewer beware, as always. He uses language that I don't normally use, but I have no problem with the language myself. I just wanted those of you that might not appreciate what would be called strong language, but he might not use it in this clip. Let's find out.
Cool. I think one is good though.
Oh god, fap 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 fap, fuck, hagu, sniff, hugchku, smash his desk. I am cooling. Incooling.
Stop, man! Come on! Come on! Come on, Alex!
Somehow I knew something like that would happen. Oh, that was great. That was an amazing clip. Oh my gosh. You don't have to. I knew the risks. And that's getting published to YouTube, by the way. So I publish my videos 24 hours after I stream. That way they are exclusive to Twitch for 24 hours, like I think the user agreement says. Oh, that was great. Anyway, check him out. He's an amazing guy. He streams 2 o'clock my time every day. So 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock his time, 9 o'clock his time. um, Sorry, you cut out. It's a what? Oh my goodness, that was great. Okay, so we managed to talk about some pretty cool stuff as far as localization is concerned. Um, so we also split out the login form into its own component, and we're going to start working on it there. I'm going to clean up some of this stuff. We also created the localizer extension. I just need to learn shortly. Actually, we're not in a rush for that part of it, but figure out how to allow Blazor Wasm to load all of the globalization information so that we can localization information so that we can localize things like date and currency, because this is an app that's going to be using a lot of dates and currencies. I don't want someone entering a date in month, day, year when they're like, this really should be day, month, year because I'm doing it the right way. Or if you're Japanese and you really are doing it the right way, year, month, day, then yeah. Anyway, point is, we got nothing done as far as the UI is concerned, but a lot done as far as exploring topics. And I love exploring. Exploring is super fun to me. So with so many people, I have no idea how many people are still here. So I'm just going to say we still have a lot of people. We may as well raid someone. We're going to head on over to Bardaki because he's the only one that I see that's live that I follow. But with that said, I will be back again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. So 15 minutes later than I started today, up until 15 minutes later than I'm ending today. Look for the video on YouTube. Thank you, Dukasoft, for the YouTube shout out link thing. And feel free to join us on Discord if you haven't joined us on Discord. We're a very laid back community. We do have people that are opinionated that I love. Oh my gosh, I love their opinions. We also have a lot of people that are just really, really willing to help out. Any question that you might have, don't think it's too dumb. Don't think it's too beneath any of us, because we do our best to help out and help you feel like you belong here. You should be programming. You should be trying to do game development or other software development. Pursue your goals. We have show-off channels. We have a rant channel, so that if you're just frustrated with the way things are going, you can just, throw a rant inside of there and not be worried about people saying, oh, just think of the people that have it worse than you. No, you have it bad. That's your rant. It belongs to you. So anyway, until the next time that I see you, I hope you join us again and enjoy your rest of time forever. Okay.